Now, I have personally assisted the Canadian police in finding property of Canadian drug dealers. It goes from very simple to very complicated. And the more complicated it goes, more lawyers and more accountants. Biggest question in money laundering: where did the money come from?
I know you have some expertise and some formal training in money laundering. Talk to me about that. Tell me some of the things that the general public doesn't understand about money laundering.
First of all, in Jamaica, 100% of the persons who seem to be living beyond their means are, and that is sufficient enough to assume that they are engaging in some form of money laundering. Does the person's lifestyle, is it commensurate to their income?
The lifestyle most much your income.
Yes. And we've seen an influx of buildings. It's been in the news about the influence of money laundering, what have you, in Jamaica. And that also is tied into a lot of scamming and having money coming in. And that's one of the things now. The Proceeds of Crime Act specify that if there's a predicate offense, which is any offense that property, any criminal offense, they can take said property because and it was geared primarily, and this was from the days of Bill Clinton, in taking the financial benefit out of crime. Now, it has, there's an iteration in Jamaica, but again, it has gone through a lot of hoops to the point where you can actually seize property to the state. Now, I have personally assisted the Canadian police in finding property of Canadian drug dealers.
That they have in Jamaica?
Yes, having properties in Jamaica. And the elaborate scheme that they did to hide the source of the fund.
So just give us an understanding, like for the person who doesn't understand how money laundering works, what are some of the ways that money laundering, there's some of the methods that is used to launder money?
Well, it's fairly simple.
Yeah.
You have ill-gotten gains. It's called placing, layering, and integration.
Placing, layering, and integration. Okay.
Right. So you place the money into the formal system. You layer it to hide the actual source, and then you integrate it as clean money. Persons who put on big dances in Jamaica. I remember one year they had that group Sashi. And they had A-list acts. They rented out an entire hotel and what have you. This was early 2000s. And the source of income did not line up with the persons who were the primaries are putting on the function.
Yeah.
It just so happened one of them that did eventually get convicted for drug-related offenses. But just from the look of it, I look at some fest. Some fest they have strength of cash because they've been an event year after year, but they still use corporate sponsors.
Yes.
Now, if you have a function where they're pulling out all the stops, and there's no corporate backing, then one has to ask, where did the money come from? Because that's the biggest question in money laundering. Where did the money come from?
Is that why you have this understanding that at some shows, I don't know if it happens in Jamaica, but I know in some countries, like the artists prefer to get paid in cash after the fact?
Yes, because it circumvents the tax system.
So the promoter of the show.
Again, an artist making a deposit of, let's say, $100,000 US,
you'll have to account for
would
it.
not raise any red flags because he's an artist. But the person who is running the show, who is attempting to infuse that illegal money by putting on an event and then paying them large sums of money, knowing that, because with money laundering, they understand that you will lose a percentage of it. To make the money clean. So with that being said, that individual don't mind paying you in cash because everything else through the system, the concession stand, the tickets can justify the source of the money.
Yeah.
So you infuse that money as much as you possibly can, real money, because in drug dealing, and I guess drug dealers are persons who are into extortion, corruption. They're happy for things like bitcoins because they're untraceable. Now, as you know, in drug dealing, there's no, they're mainly cash transactions. So there's a generation of a large amount of actual money. In fact, it was said that Pablo Escobar had to buy boxes of elastic bands just to the sums of money, because drug dealing generates a lot of cash.
Yeah.
And that cash in and of itself in a room is of no consequence. You can buy stuff in cash, but there are some places that you buy stuff. In fact, now banks have had what they call a suspicious transaction report or threshold transaction report. If the money, if you deposit something over the threshold amount, a report is generated. If suspicious transaction is when a person whose salary check goes in, and let's say it's $5,000 a month, all of a sudden they're having deposits of $50,000 on a regular basis, plus their salary check, and there's no source of the money, then that would raise that the banks are obligated by law to report those things as well. So without saying too much, I mean, that's a typical money laundering. You get dirty money, put something on, the revenue from that is clean. You can justify the source of the money, and that's it. So it goes from very simple to very complicated, and the more complicated includes more lawyers and more accountants.